Hey, Cliff and company. Sorry if I'm beating what is a dead horse here, but I thought I would try again. Since I'm still not seeing things that match what Cliff, you were describing, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I'm showing you my setup here, which is the AXE3. I've got a patch that routes to output 1 and output 4, goes into an Apollo and into DAW logic. And the Apollo is set to reference level minus 10 dBV on what is receiving AXE output 1 and output 4. And the output 1 is set to minus 10 dBV. I don't have a setting for output 4, you know. If I play the guitar, you can see that I'm reading about minus 12-ish dB on output 4's meters, about the same in both inputs for the Apollo and the same in both inputs on the DAW. So that all looks good across the board. However, if I select this output 1 block and look at its meters, they're reading plus 6 or so, which doesn't match what I see here in the output 4 block, which I'm tapping the same signal, so I kind of naively expect those two to be the same. Cliff also said that the post-fader values are showed on the hardware meters. I'm not showing you the hardware, but if I play right now, the output 1 hardware meter is reading 3 bars. So the orange lights, 3 up from the bottom, are on solid. The output 4 is just reading 2 green bars, and they're on solid. So even though the DAW is receiving the exact same level from the hardware output lights are reading a different level. So that seemed different than what Cliff had stated. I did notice, however, that if I switch on the hardware output 1 to a plus 4 dB reference, the signal's hotter. And if I bring the output 1 hardware knob down so that I'm equal volume-ish, right now the hardware meters are the same. So the hardware for output 1 and output 4 read the same values, and they look kind of like a minus 12-ish signal, right? And so that's odd to me that I'm still calibrated at minus 10 dBV here on the Apollo, but when I set the AXE to plus 4, now the output meters read the same on the hardware when they're the same at the DAW. So those are kind of two bits that don't quite seem to be matching up. You can stop now because that's really the main thing, is that first I expected these two to read the same since they're tapping the same signal. Why that's interesting to me and causing a problem is when I first set my patches, I set them looking at this, the output 1 meter, and I'd look at these going into the red and I'd say that's too hot, right? So I would come back to the amp block, I'd knock this guy down, something reasonable to make that meter look more, like it's a good value. And then when I come over to the DAW, I'm getting, minus 23 dB signal, which is, it's there, but it's not a great signal, right? And also what I noticed is, and this, I'm sorry, this is with the calibration wonky, but I guess it's, I match them. Then when so I just expected a hotter level at the DAW when I saw this. So the workaround, of course, is to drop in an output 3 or an output 4 to get the quote unquote real level, what's going out to the DAW. I could see where maybe you don't notice this if you're just plugging into a rig, because there's plenty of headroom and gain on your, say, powered speaker plus the output 1 hardware knob to get the level that you want. But when I'm on the DAW, I really want more of like a minus 12-ish level coming in here. And this meter just doesn't help me out. I end up being in here, and even if I went, let's say, minus 6, I got a pretty hot signal. To the DAW, it's still minus 10, which is a little bit hot, but that's okay. But this meter is starting to not really be effective, right? It's peaking, it's hammering the top, and so even if I come here and put this at 0, which is what I was doing before, that meter now is just useless, right? It's just pegged. It's not giving me any information, and over here I'm at minus 2, minus 4, so that's too hot, but this is just, it's not helping me, right? So that's what I'm seeing. If I'm still getting it wrong, I will take that feedback. Thanks.